Good morning. It is Brian. It is the Art of Startup War. This is another day where I get to interview a phenomenal entrepreneur, a company that we had the opportunity to invest in, which feels fantastic as we see the company soar through. The objective of this podcast is for investors all over the world to be able to find the very best companies that are on their way to being unicorns. Your host, Brian here from Expert Dojo, has invested in these companies. So we're not just telling you about great companies, we are showing you incredible companies that are breaking through that we have put our own money into. And today we have got Samuel from Canta. We're going to talk about payments. We're going to talk about international payments. We're going to talk about how companies are working in this incredible new world of ours. And we're going to be talking about how this company are breaking through to be the leader of the pack. Samuel, welcome to the show, buddy.
Hi, Brian. Nice to have me here on the show.
Excellent. So listen, let's talk about your journey. So the idea here is we're going to show investors the path to how you build $1 billion company. That's it. Nothing else, right? So let's start with where you came from. Let's talk about the origins of Canta. And when you first came up with the idea, talk to us about that genesis and how it's developed through to today.
Okay. Thanks for the opportunity, Brian. First of all, I'm Samuel. The way it kind of started was fresh out of school. I had a job with a payment company called Unified Payments, and I was working there as a software developer. That's actually my normal day job. I used to write code. I used to code in C#. I worked in Unified Payment for 1.5 years, and while working there, someone called me up. A friend of mine called me up one day and said, "Hey, Samuel, since you work in the payment industry, you should have an idea about how I would be able to convert Naira to pounds. I need to send money to someone." And I'm like, okay, let me ask a few people. And lucky enough, I asked a friend of mine that was in the UK, and she was like, "Okay, cool. I actually need Naira, so I don't mind giving out pounds." And I had to match both of them together. And interestingly, they were able to carry out outbound remittance by just connecting two people together. And this was me just adding a little bit of money on it. So I made some profit of it, and I was like, "Cool, this is interesting." And the person reached out to his friend, and they kept on calling me anytime they needed to transfer. And I found out that there was actually a huge opportunity here, and I took out time to study. And mind you, this was like 2017. So I was like, okay, why not I infuse technology into this? Since I'm a software developer, I had to call my friends that were working in the same place with me. I'm like, "Yo, can we build this?" And a couple of them joined me, and then we actually launched the product in February 2022. So it's been an amazing journey because it's actually a problem that we're solving, actually a major problem. And maybe, Brian, once we continue the conversation, I would tell you something remarkable I found about solving this problem, which I never knew was actually a generation problem that I was actually solving. So that's how Canta started out at this point.
A little tease. And the thing is, a lot of investors on listening to this podcast will not know Africa terribly well. They will know of Africa. They will obviously know like the enormity of the opportunity in places like Nigeria. They'll know the population more or less of Africa. They'll know that we're going to go from 1 billion people in the world to 1/4 of the entire global population. So they'll know that there's potential there, but they won't know the individual problems. And I think very few of them could possibly imagine that there are so many different currencies and so many challenges with actually transferring between those currencies around the world. So first of all, investors, I want you to imagine 25% of the entire global population. That's where Africa is going to within the next 20 years or so, right? And then I want you to imagine 50 plus countries all the way throughout Africa, all with their own different currencies and their own challenges within transferring those currencies. And then I want you to realize that the magnitude of the problem that you're imagining is probably 10% of what it really is. So Samuel, talk to us about how hard a thing this is, because a lot of folks listening might think, well, I don't know, is it that hard just to transfer Naira and put it into sterling or throw it into dollars or something else? Surely they're just two currencies, but they are not.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So it's interesting to find out that, first of all, in Nigeria, out of Nigeria, over $300 billion is actually rented out of Nigeria annually, $300 billion. And this is from market operators, African businesses that actually import goods from every part of the world, right? So currently today, the major how this is being carried out today is um, I would use a persona. One of my customers would usually go to a local bank and say, "Hey, I need $100,000 in exchange for my naira. I need $100,000, and I need you to send it to my beneficiary in Europe, for example." And most likely, the bank would he would fill the form, but then he goes back and the money hasn't got into supplier and it takes over 120 days. And this is because the local banks have no money. They have no foreign exchange in their reserves. You might ask why this is a problem. This is because Nigeria is somewhat of an importation country. We import a lot. We hardly export. So our currency is actually not significant compared to the USD, GBP, and other currencies across the world, right? So it's actually undervalued. So a lot of people don't really know about the naira. So it's actually very painstaking for these business owners to do this. So this customer goes to the bank and then it takes 120 days and he goes back to the bank and they say, we have no foreign exchange in our reserves today. And he's so pissed because he's unable to get into the bid, he's unable to import his goods. So the central system has actually failed. And 30, 40 years ago, this wasn't actually a problem because a lot of people were not importing goods into Nigeria. So, but right now, the population is actually growing rapidly. The business population is actually growing rapidly. And the central system can no longer cater to the needs of this business owners right here in Nigeria. So it's actually a very, very painstaking experience because a lot of people have actually missed out of business. They've actually lost out of business because they can't actually get their money in real time to wherever it takes, so wherever they want to. So it's actually a major problem. So we actually, as a company, have thought about this because over time, in fact, Brian, I'm just going to get directly to my story. Was this a problem for my dad? And she was like, yeah, actually, the reason why he stopped doing international trade was because of the problem it took to always source a foreign exchange. And he wasn't able to carry out this trade. So he actually just focused more on buying locally. And there are a lot of people like my dad that has the same problem, that their dreams of actually getting into global trade, connecting to different people around the world has actually died because they can't actually get foreign exchange. So this is why we thought about building Canta, only for me to find out that this is actually a generational problem. I wouldn't want my children to actually get through the same problem that I'm actually solving, which is why it is actually very personal to me and my team to actually solve this foreign exchange problem. So first of all, it's actually that there's no foreign exchange in the reserves. Secondly, it actually takes a very long time, even if they have. So imagine someone needing to pay for his goods right now. He actually has to wait for over 3 months. And this is very unnecessary because in other parts of the world, it's actually not a problem. That's why a lot of people can't relate, because this is actually a Nigerian problem and an African problem as large.
And I think it's a bigger problem, Samuel, that goes even beyond Africa to individual countries and places and just systems, right? Centralized systems are generally inefficient. That's the thing, right? Because if you have a centralized system, it's expensive, it's inefficient, and it's also not convenient because you have one group controlling everything. So what I love about what you've come up with is a fully decentralized system that says, look, decentralization works when it is peer-to-peer because it is the shortest possible point between two people. That's the beautiful thing about peer-to-peer. Decentralization is more challenging when there's lots of people that need to be decentralized and it turns into a spider's web. But when it's like this, where it is pure peer-to-peer, I'm over here, I'm in Santa Monica, you're over there, you're in Nigeria, I've got money which is in dollars, you've got money which is in naira, I want naira, you want dollars, for whichever reason, whether it's to speculate or to make money on the currency, or whether it's just because we're both going to each other's place, or because we're both importing and exporting. Why would we not do the peer-to-peer as a decentralized system? Now, everybody, imagine multiplying this by 100. Imagine multiplying it by 1,000. Imagine multiplying it by 100,000, a million. Suddenly you have a pure system, which has got all kinds of systems built into it to avoid fraud, and all kinds of systems built into it to make sure that actually the peer-to-peer is done between trusted people who are already verified on the platform. It is so brilliant. And this is why we liked it so much. So, okay, the idea, tick in the box. Huge problem needing to be solved. Massive enemy for all of those business people. I would even argue for consumers as well that are just looking for the convenience of going to another country and having a little bit of fun on the spur of the moment, right? But huge problem either way. Now, talk to me about how you turned it into a real system, a trusted network of people whereby folks know that by coming in and working and trading and being on Canta, they have a better and more trusted system that they could get themselves.
Yeah, so Brian, I was actually getting there, right? Since the centralized system is actually messed up completely and it's not able to cater for this growing population of business operatives, what we've done is we created a decentralized process, right, that allows buyers and sellers of foreign exchange to come on actually our platform and actually trade directly. So what this means is that on one part of Canta is that if I have $100,000, right, and I'm in the US and I need Naira, I would come on the platform and say, hey guys, I have $100,000. Mind you, everyone before they come on this platform goes through very, very rigorous, quite simple, right? But at the back end, quite rigorous because we need to make sure that everyone on our platform is actually safe and secured. So they go through the KYC and KYB process, know your customer, know your business, and they have to put in their documentation because right now we're catered for business operatives. So once we take them through this KYC process, which is actually about, I think, 2-3 minutes on the platform, right? We get them up and running. So we create a virtual account for them. If you need virtual account in multiple currencies, at Canta, we're able to manage multiple currencies from one platform. So if you need a wallet, GBP, USD wallet, or Naira wallet, we actually have it on the platform. So once we onboard these people, they would have the right to create any of these wallets they need because a business person might be trading in multiple currencies. So at that one spot, you'll be able to do that. So once they complete their KYC or KYB process, they will be able to create whatever wallet they want. And then at any point in time, they need to transfer money. So this is no longer like the centralized system where you have to go home or you have to walk into an office. Right now, you can actually do this from your device, from your house. You actually don't need to move. So we're actually bringing convenience to you. So unlike the other person that has to go to the bank and wait for 120 days, right now, you can actually convert that in seconds and your money will get to your beneficiary any part of the world. We pride ourselves to do it in less than 10 minutes, at most less than an hour. And this is actually something that is actually very new to this region where we are and the only way this is possible is actually using a decentralized system, which we found out. So right now, through our decentralized system, we've been able to carry out peer-to-peer transactions and also instant remittance. So the difference between both of them is that from peer-to-peer, buyers and sellers of foreign exchange can actually trade by themselves on the platform at whatever rate they desire, which is pretty much interesting, which is what Africans love a lot. They want to be able to control their rates at every point in time. But the instant remittance is that through our also decentralized process, we've been able to pre-fund our wallets in different currencies. So if you need GBP at any point in time, we have it in our vault. If you need USD, we have it in our vault. If you need GBP, we have it in our vault. You don't need to worry about fraud because everyone on our platform, we have a system backend that actually runs checks daily on every customer on Canta, which actually makes us super secure and safe. So right now, we've been able to even acquire a money service business license in Canada that allows us to even have more currency on our platforms today. So we're talking about the Chinese yen because 70% of business operators from Nigeria today actually buy import goods from China. So we've been able to do that right now. And we just had that license a few months ago. So right now we're connecting to the Asian markets, we're connecting to the Canadian markets because a lot of Nigerians too actually migrating to Canada at the moment, which is actually a very huge opportunity for us to be able, because most of them would want to move their businesses from Nigeria and start up a new family in Canada. massive opportunity for us, Brian. And it's so interesting that we're actually trying to solve this problem in a time like this, where a lot of people are having payment problems globally.
Oh, it's huge, and how it can go. So I want to get to the traction in a moment and like how you're going to build it going forward. But let me just start with, how did you build it in the first place? Talk to us about some of the investors who came on board, how you got the money together to build the platform, how you pulled the team around you. Because I think what a lot of people don't realize, and even those investors who put money into startups, is how incredibly difficult it is to start a fintech company in Africa that immediately goes to scale, immediately gets traction in the market, but coming from scratch. So tell us a little bit about the financial journey.
All right, so it's been quite interesting because all we just did was that we did a pre-seed round and raised around $140,000 from just purely angels, right? And for us, since the business is super productive, we actually haven't even gone to raise much later again, because we just used the money to set up a team, right? $140,000 purely from angels, no VCs at the moment. Currently, we're in talks with some VCs right now, trying to get into this round. And it's been an amazing journey because the team is actually pretty solid. I used to work in a company called Unified Payments, and what I did was that I understood that this journey, it would be quite an interesting journey. So I decided to get solid people that have experience, that has gained a lot of experience in the financial space. So my technical lead is a very wonderful and amazing person. He works in Unified Payments for over 45 years, right? Even longer than I did, and then moved to Wirecard and has built a lot of software products for the financial system here in Nigeria. Talk about local banks like United Bank of Africa, talk about Guaranteed, like a lot of banks here in Africa. He actually builds a lot of product for them. And I'm like, you have to come join me here at Canta. And sold the opportunity to them, and he had to come in. My mobile developer, same thing, used to work in the same place with me. And then we had to get an A team, because we noticed that from building out a product like this, you would actually need a very, very solid technical team. And that, what have you, you want to talk about our design team. We have pretty much very young, fresh out of school guys that are doing magnificently well in the fields, and has actually designed a lot of great product. Like today, our user process from the application, the user experience was actually in-house. Everything is in-house. We're not outsourcing anything. And everybody is actually working out of Nigeria here, Lagos, Nigeria. So we have pretty much lean team of about 8 people that consist of technical lead, mobile developers, backend developers, designers, content writers, and our sales team, right? It's actually a small team of about 8 members. And it's interesting because every month we notice that we've been growing strategically 20% month on month. And this is how we did this. We actually had a meeting in our team, and we're like, hey, since we're actually focused on businesses, and we pride ourselves to be the bridge between the tech savvy and the non-tech savvy at Canta. So our strategy is actually to get into those local markets, right? The trade unions, infiltrate these trade unions, reach out to the market stakeholders, and then onboard them on Canta, because 70% of these business operatives, right, are not tech savvy. They actually do not have even phones, right? It's interesting because we just launched in February, right? And we've been able to do this running from the ground, not even asking for even more money. Like I said, $140,000, and we've been managing that, right? So think of what we are going to do with more money. Think of what we are going to do in the next year for 2023, right? It's pretty much, we have a trajectory of what we're building from 2023 and how we're actually going to get to the unicorn status. In fact, Brian, there's something I just learned. So it's called Sunicorn, right? So we're actually going to get to that point, right? So 2023 is pretty much amazing, and we're pretty much sure we would be able to maybe close out 2023 at over $2 to $3 million in revenue.
Nice. Sunicorn.
Yep.
I'm gonna bring in you on, which is just great. Just great company unicorns. You know what I love about companies like yours, and investors. Here's a little sneak behind the curtains for you. The vast majority of unicorns, they reach their status because they raise a ton of money at the very beginning, so much money that they can get through all of their inefficiencies and all of the challenges that they have to get to a very quick status very quickly. And so a lot of the time, they don't even need to provide a valuable product. What I love about companies like Canta, they do it themselves. They don't need money. They want money. You know, if they raised a ton of money, they're going to build a unicorn. If they don't raise a ton of money, they're going to build a unicorn, because from both cases, they have a willing and needy audience. Their audience need them to provide this service, and they need them to provide it now. And it's not just the folks that are the businesses that are importing and export, or even the consumers. It's the local governments themselves that want to spur trade. Can you imagine how frustrating it is when you have the product, you have the customers, you have everything to have an amazing business, and then you got to wait for the damn currency, something entirely out of your control, to actually make sure that you can buy the goods that you actually need to. So the problem that's being solved here is absolutely incredible. And I'm sure for investors listening, look, this is Uber for money transfer. Like, just think about it. It's so impractical running a taxi service. Think about how crazy it was when that used to happen, right? We'd have 400 taxis all congregated at a little office, and the little office had a telephone in it, and people would call that telephone and I'd be like, Jimmy, go and get such and such over 20 miles away. And Jimmy would be like, I'm going right now. Why would we do that? Like, why would we do that for money? And then you think about the largest money transfer services like in the world, like the Western Unions, everyone else, and think about like how inefficient their systems are, that you have to actually go, and even the Bureau de Changes, where you have to actually have currency there just so you can give it to other people. The beautiful thing, the perfect world, the utopia for currency transfer, which is the one thing that will always increase in the world. It will never go away. The world will become more and more global. Countries will stay more and more nationalistic and sovereign, and currencies will remain until the end of time. And what will increase is the necessity to use them. But imagine the biggest currency exchange platform in the world that holds no currency. Beautiful, right? So that's what we're talking about here. It makes like the most beautiful, perfect sense in the entire world. I even think, I know you're talking like Nigeria and saying, look, it's a problem there, a problem in Africa, a problem in other countries where you have a disparity between the money coming into the country and the money going out of the country. But actually, it's a pain in the ass for everyone. Like anybody looking for foreign currency in any way, all goes through the same process. I'm going to go, maybe I go to the airport. I hope it's there. Maybe I go to my bank, but I got to hope my bank has got enough money to actually be able to give me that money in that currency. And then I got to wait. Like even here in Santa Monica in the United States, if I go to Bank of America, I will go through that process and I have to go there. See, you change everything. So for me, look, I want to leave this last minute or two for you to share with our listeners what they have to look forward to by investing in you and what your timeline looks like to build yourself up. Look, we all know a unicorn is $2 to $3 million a month in revenue, right? That's it. Net revenue. If a company is $2 to $3 million a month in net revenue, congratulations, Mr. and Mrs. Investor. You just made yourself a 20 to 100 times return on your money, right? So Samuel in a second is going to talk to you about how he and his team are going to take Canta from where they are right now, which is tens of millions of dollars in transactions, to where they're going to be next year, which is $2 to $3 million in net revenue. And that's only 1% of the transactions. So you can already see the hundreds of millions of dollars in transactions that will actually provide. To then after that, as they start layering in new products in new countries, and how they then build that up to $2 million a month in revenue. What I will say to you in the meantime is, we're not here for fun. Expert Dojo invest in great founders that we believe not just that they can build unicorns, but they can get there faster. Our view on this space is that, number one, Africa is one of the most exciting and dominant forces in early stage startup on the planet right now. It is the future. The United States is the present. and maybe a little bit of the past. Africa is the future. You want to invest for maximum returns in the future. And this company is in one of the hottest areas in fintech space with a team that have proven not only capable, but more than capable of hitting every single milestone that they promised us and other investors so far. They're the real deal. Samuel, give us the last minute or two. Tell us, please, your email address so that investors can contact you. And then also share with us what that vision looks like to get you to that $2-3 million a month in net revenue.
All right, Brian, thank you. So I'm just going to start with my my email address. My email address is samuel@canta.io. Samuel@canta.io. So it's interesting to know that this is actually a problem that would continue, right, in Africa. And we're actually committed to solving this problem. It's money. People would always import goods into Africa, and we're never going to run out of this having monies in our reserves because we're carrying out it. We've decentralized the process, which is actually the solution to the problem of the central system. So what we are doing right now is actually going to take us to this point where we would have multiple transactions. And investors, I would advise that everyone should get into this round right now, because it's important, because right now we just raised $140,000, and this is since January 2022, right? And we've done this great with that little money, right? With that little money. So it means that right now, once you put your money into Canta at this point in time, I can assure you that we can actually double it, because there's nothing that actually can give you this much money. Even stocks can't even do this right now. We're actually growing. Since we're growing 20% month on month, we'd get to the point where at every point in time, we'll be able to carry out hundreds of millions of transactions monthly, which is that's actually our target, which is actually why we're carrying out this round. So it's important that everyone gets in now, because the growth metrics for us is actually overwhelming. It's actually overwhelming because almost every day, I spoke to Brian a few weeks ago, and I said, every day we have over $2 to $3 million in requests daily on our platform, right, from different currencies that we currently do not have. And right now, since we have this license, we'll be able to carry out these transactions, and it's pretty much going to be easy peasy for us. So it's very clear. There's no dark spot. It's actually not blurry at all, because the trajectory is already set to where we're getting to. And I would advise everyone to actually get into this round, because it's pretty much going to be massive after this time, because 2023 is actually going to be super. It's going to be an exciting year for us at Canta.
It's going to be your year. Well done, buddy. And look, again, for all investors on the call, this is not a solicitation or a request for anybody to invest. You guys got to make your own decisions. You got to do your own research. You got to check out the company. You got to make sure everything's fine. What this is a celebration that Expert Dojo did invest. And I'm sharing with you the diligence that we did as we were looking at the company, as we were making that decision to put that $50,000 or $100,000 in at the beginning, and to actually then want to put a further $1 million into this company in the future. So look, as always, investors out there, check it out yourself, look into it. We're giving you a sneak preview into the company. You have the contact details to be able to contact Samuel direct. If anybody would like to contact with me and check out the diligence that we did and dig into a little bit more into my thought process, I'm very happy to speak to any of you, and you can always contact me at brian@expertdojo.com. Samuel, my friend, I'm very happy to have you on board. Right, you're going to make us a lot of money. Yeah. Thank you, buddy.
Thanks, Brian.
It's a wrap, my friend. Thank you.